Greeting, ladies and gentlemen. And when I was young and stupid, I was young and stupid. I learned that truth from a former president of the United States of America. And it stuck with me, and it struck me because it was true of me. And I think it's true of a lot of others. And no sooner had I been so kind to the program from yesterday about Alexandria, Ocasio-Cortez. Unfortunately, even after those kind things, she kind of lived up to that old expression herself. And you know, maybe there's something for us to learn, young, old, or in between, as we seek to live the life of Jesus entrepreneurs and make our mark in the marketplace. That's coming up today on the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. That program, those thoughts, they begin right now. Well, I was not planning to come back into the studio. The What It Takes Radio Edge studio, located on Route 77. That's right, Route 77 in southern Arizona, in the southwestern part of the United States. And by the way, if you keep going on Route 77 long enough, you'll run into the famous Route 66. But we're on Route 77. And I wasn't planning a program today, but I thought something struck me, result of something I said, and then it flipped to something else. And so, since this is the magic of right on demand, point of the moment, which is part of what radio is all about, I thought I'd take a few minutes today to share some of the things that came to me, and maybe they'll be just as helpful to you. Well, yesterday, after telling my story about, after several failed attempts, and that is so true of our life, not only as Christian entrepreneurs and Jesus entrepreneurs, but if ever we're involved in the work and the world of trying to do something that matters and makes a difference, we will probably have several failed attempts. And unfortunately, most people, just after a few, they quit trying. And as a result, oftentimes we never reach the full God-given ability and the things that we could achieve and accomplish through His love and grace. I do think there might be a bit of a tear in heaven, and that is when we certainly celebrate the freedom that we have in Jesus in eternity. We might just realize that life on planet Earth could have been perhaps a little bit more, maybe a lot more, if we had just lived a little more wisely and purposefully and courageously. We might have achieved. We could have done more for the kingdom of God and for our own families and friends. And when we realize that, there might be that tear that the good Lord still smiles and wipes away. Just let that sit on your head for a while. But let's go with a thought right now. It's hard to believe, but some time ago, a presidential candidate never ever would admit that they might have used illegal drugs at some time in their past. Now they not only admit it, sometimes they even brag about it. But back in the campaign, when President George W. Bush was running for office, there were rumors that as a young man, and he admitted that he had had some problems, that as a young man perhaps he had taken drugs, maybe some pretty notorious drugs. And so they were obviously trying to get him to admit that he had done that. And he never did. He did certainly confess to the fact that he'd had a drinking problem, and that it was through God's grace and perhaps even the ministry of Dr. Billy Graham that he said, I just stopped drinking. But did he do drugs? He never said, and when he was questioned, he had a comment that made me smile. He simply said this, when I was young and stupid, I was young and stupid. And that's all he said. What do you say to that? Obviously, it's a wonderful confession and admission to reality. Yeah, I'm not saying what I did, but I am saying that when I was young and stupid, I was young and stupid. And we can go from there. And hopefully, we're less young and less stupid as hopefully we get older and wiser. Well, that's just a thought, but here's what happened. Yesterday, I just simply mentioned in a casual way, but the fact that the very, very well-known AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, had done a couple things right, maybe 3. And we can always learn from everybody. Everything can be useful to us in some way, and we might learn from people who are maybe young and stupid. And I commented on the fact that she had said that there is probably too much what she called financialization in the American and world economy, where people make money just because they know how to move and manage money. And maybe there should be more emphasis not on making money, but by making and creating things. I agree. I think we need to give greater emphasis to the entrepreneurial, innovation, creation, building things. Innovation, creation, and building things. Not just managing, moving, and marketing and messaging things. And so I commended her for that. Then I also noted that she did the footwork. And part of the reason she's successful is she put on a pair of shoes and wore them out. She just got on the road and she went out and met people and talked to them. Good lesson in life, business, and marketing. And then thirdly, I mentioned the fact that she had a sponsor. And that's a wise and a smart thing to do. So I was nice to her. Unfortunately, no sooner had I finished the program than she comes out with some comment that the problem with the immigration and the caravans in the southwestern part of America on the Mexico-American border, that was due to climate change. Now that's ridiculous. There certainly is a problem on the borders, and I live near that situation, and it is a crisis in many ways. We see even the results of it, even though I live almost 90 miles away from the border. It's a problem. However, whether there is climate change or not, that is to be disputed and not accepted. And we can continue to dispute it. But then we also have to realize that we perhaps need to move on to things that are of greater importance. But to say that that's the result of climate change illustrates what is true of her and what can be true of us, and it can stick with us. When she was young and stupid, she was young and stupid. And she's young and stupid, and she's doing young and stupid things. Just like I did when I was 29, 30, maybe even 39 and 40 and 49. And the goal of the second half of life is, as St. Paul, the entrepreneur, would say, you know, when I was childish and foolish, I did childish and foolish and stupid things. And now, by God's grace, I'm doing less of them and more of them. And I'm pressing on toward the mark of wisdom, insight, truth, strength, and purpose for my life through the leadership of the Holy Spirit given to me by Jesus and the Father. And the three surround me in the Holy Trinity. And perhaps I can live a life not of stupidity, but of great faith and power and presence. And I can achieve things that I never thought possible. And perhaps know things that I never thought possible. And in some ways, life can be fuller and greater. And I can achieve more and better, and I can become a person of great Spirit-led forcefulness and fruitfulness. Spirit-led forcefulness and fruitfulness. We call that, in the Christian Entrepreneur Network, the SF factor. There we go. Think about that. And that's my take back. That's my sequel to what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said. And now she stands corrected, and I stand corrected, and hopefully we'll all be a little bit wiser for that. But I do want to also take another tip at that thing she did well, sponsorship. Because before I learned such a thing from what she actually did, I learned it from a man of great wisdom and strength and power who died in the last couple years. But before he died, he shared his love and his wisdom with me. And he was the one who first taught me about sponsorship. And if you'll hang with me for just a few more minutes, I'd like to tell you the story of Eugene Jennings. Karen and I helped start a small church in our little retirement village here in southern Arizona. And after doing so, a man came in on a wheelchair. And he had a caregiver with him. And I went up and introduced myself to him. And he said his name was Eugene. And just Eugene. And I said, Eugene who? Eugene Jennings. And he was very friendly and very nice. And he was crippled. He was in a wheelchair. To make a long story and a wonderful relationship very short, the reason he was in a wheelchair is that he had been injured in a training accident on a jump cord as a young Marine in World War II, and he'd broken his back. And as a result of that, he never went into combat after that. And in the next combat, his group suffered 80% casualties. But he was in a hospital, and he told me how he never forgot that he had not been there for his men, with his men, as they suffered so terribly. But there he was, and he was crippled. But it didn't slow him down. He went on to become one of the most respected business consultants throughout the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s. He was not only dealing with the Fortune 500 companies, but the Fortune 50 companies. I was amazed. And the more I found out about the books that he had written and the reputation that he had and how well respected, I was amazed that God had brought this man in his mid-90s into my life. And I was hoping and praying that I would get to know more about him. Well, there's a story of his premature, at least to me, death, even though he was in his 90s. But here's one of the things he said to me. Stan, I have studied all my life what helps people to make it in the marketplace and what it takes to be a chief, to be a leader, to make it through the maze that is required both for significant entrepreneurs and significant executives of major public companies. And that's what his work was all about. And he shared a number of those things with me. And someday I'm going to talk to you more about Eugene Edward Jennings. Eugene Edward Jennings. Please look him up and find out a little bit about him, and I'd love to tell you more of my personal story about him. RadioEdge77@gmail.com, RadioEdge77@gmail.com. Just say, Stan, tell me more about Eugene Jennings. He had a number of things, but here's what he said. Stan, you made a mistake, but most people do. You did work very, very hard, and obviously in many situations you worked in a business hard. He says, but what I've discovered is that success is certainly due to skill. It is certainly due to wisdom. It is certainly due to strength. And unfortunately, it is often due to just blood and guts politics, particularly in the corporate world. You just got to learn, as Jesus said, to be gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. Because the snakes and the snarks and the sharks, they will be out to get you if they smell that you're going to be successful. Watch out. But he said, also seek to find someone who will sponsor you. Find sponsors, Stan. Find men and women who can learn from you and you can learn from them, and together you will sponsor each other. You will be sponsors of each other. And when I have a project that needs work, you'll help me sponsor it. And when you have a project that needs work, I'll help you sponsor it. Sponsorship is not just about business and commerce and advertising. It is all of those things, but even more. Sponsorship is precisely what sonship is all about. God has sent us as He sent His Son into the world, and He's one of our sponsors. He's sponsoring our projects and our performance and our activities. He truly is the holy sponsor. And what He wants you to do is find disciples. What He wants you to find is people to follow yourself and learn the art of seeking a sponsor and of sponsoring one another and having a whole network of people who are of similar spirit who can continue to sponsor each other. So I didn't get the idea of sponsorship from AOC. I got it from EEJ, Eugene Edwards Jennings. And I take this 20 minutes just to share that story with you. I hope you'll follow up on it, and you'll do exactly what I should do and what you should do and what Eugene told us to do. Find sponsors. Find sponsors. Find a sponsor. Just let that sit on your head for a while. Hey, we did it again. Under 20 minutes. I'd love to have you visit me at www.tcenglobal.org/contribute now. We're a 501c3. We come free to you, but we have fees to pay, and if you can help us, I would be grateful. www.tcenglobal.org/contribute now. And RadioEdge77@gmail.com, RadioEdge77@gmail.com. That's how to reach out and touch me. In fact, you can give me a phone call, 520-664-7002, USA. You know what? I'll call you back if you leave a message. And let's talk about how I can help you. how you can find the sponsor, how you can find the skills and the strategies and the strength to truly be one of God's great, world-changing, innovation-bringing, entrepreneurial entrepreneurs. Let's make it happen. Let's make it all worthwhile. Till next time, bye for now.